Man, a lot of stuff has happened since the last time David and Zane came on the Boardman Black and Gold podcast, but we are back. Hello there. We are happy to be back on the microphones. And the thing about it is, we have a lot to talk about when it comes to free agency. We were hoping to get this out sometime around last week, but it might have been a decent thing for us to actually have waited because we got to see how things shook out in the free agent stuff. And to be honest, there's a lot going on, but I don't know how necessarily encouraged I am by what's going on. We'll get your thoughts on that in a minute, but I guess, well, actually, we'll do this now. What are your very very raw takes on the free agent stuff, everything that happened? Maybe give it a grade or something like that, David.
Um, yeah, I feel like it's tough. I feel like this is a very just interesting free agency thus far for the Steelers of where it's like, man, I don't know. Like, what are we doing? Like, I'm like, okay, I don't dislike these moves. I don't know if I love them. So I'd probably go a C or maybe a C plus.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too. Now, the only thing is, I feel like that could be weighed down almost by what we didn't do. Now, because you kind of think, okay, what we did do is fine, but it's kind of like the sin of omission in a way, where it's like the stuff that we didn't do might almost be outweighing the good stuff that we did. And I think the thing we want to start with here is the things that we lost in this free agency, because as I was looking at, just the names and even some of the contracts that were signed, I was looking at it, I'm like, man, I'm a little bit discouraged at what we lost for certain prices. And let's just kind of go down this list, and you can interject when you feel necessary. So the big one was Najee Harris. He goes to Los Angeles, the Chargers, for 1 year, $5.25 million with a chance for $4 million in incentives. So perhaps 9.25 million for Najee Harris, which I think is about the market value that we were kind of expecting him. But I don't know if you saw what he came out with and said a couple days ago, but he was like very quick to trash the Steelers the moment he put on another team's hat.
Okay, one, valid, because I agree with what he said. But two, you're telling me, oh my goodness, he's just speaking. Because when he was with us, when we lost that playoff game, he was like, you guys can't trash Mike Tomlin. Like, you guys, like, you don't know what you're talking about. Then he leaves and says we don't have an identity, that our facilities aren't as good, and like all this stuff is bad. And it's like, so whoever's paying him, that side he's on. But I do agree with what he said. And like honestly, the reason why I gave our free agency a C so far, I was gonna bring this up, was him saying that we don't have an identity. That's what our free agency feels like. It's like, are these pieces like separate or together? Are we building a team? Are we just getting players? Like, I think that he's right. And so like I'm not upset at him at all for saying that stuff because I'm like, someone needs to call out the crap that's going on. But yeah, I mean, the fact that we lost him that cheap is kind of crazy. But I do like, we'll get to it, him, our addition, kind of Gainwell. But it's crazy how inexpensive he was.
It is, but in the same way, so I think what you said about the identity is interesting, and also what you said about the fact that now he's wearing a different hat, he's willing to say those things. And you talked about it, I think, in our last episode. Maybe it was a couple episodes previous, but Najee and Pat Fryermuth are like best buddies. And Fryermuth was one of those guys where we were talking about and said, when he's wearing the Steelers cap, he is going to defend us till the day he dies. But what happens if he does go and he wears another hat? Is he going to still defend us in the way that he is now? I think we just saw with what Najee Harris said, like, I think we understand now that when you get away from the Pittsburgh Steelers, you have free reign and free will to trash them, and almost rightly so, kind of as what you were saying.
Right. And it's almost like, a politician of like, they're going to say the right stuff while they're there. But like, yeah, it doesn't make me. I don't know if it made you upset at all, but it didn't make me upset at all. I was like, thank you. Somebody blast what is going on within the building because it's obviously not good.
Yeah, I agree. I was again, it's not a good thing that we're hearing it, but it is a good thing that we are in a way. So it's kind of
Right.
a paradox. Okay, moving on. So here was the one that I was like really upset with. Elandon Roberts, we let walk to Las Vegas for a 1 year, $3 million deal. Now, break that down for me because I don't understand how we couldn't pay $3 million to Elandon Roberts.
Yeah, no, I mean that doesn't make sense to me at all. When I mean, considering our middle linebackers, he was like, he was the most reliable guy out there. Like, you look at his, um, I just remember so many times he was the rock. He was the hard hitting guy to make the tackle. Like he's the linebacker you want, and it's like we have the money and yeah, that one we definitely let him slip there. I don't understand. I don't know what their idea is for a replacement. I know that they obviously love Peyton Wilson, and I do too. But besides him, I feel like we don't really have much depth. So I'm kind of confused at why they would let him go again for like a price that's not bad.
And especially the fact that he was a run stopper too, which I feel like was one of our biggest problems, at least in the second half of the season. We couldn't stop the run. We let Derrick Henry walk all over us in the playoff game. And if he's your best run stopper in the middle of the field and you let him go for dirt cheap, then I don't get the vision there. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And we did go out and sign a linebacker, but I mean, I can't imagine he's going to be much better than Elandon Roberts. Again, we'll get to that in a little bit. Another interesting piece on defense that we let go, Larry Ogunjobi, who we kind of knew was going to be gone. But did you hear the thing about him? He got busted for PEDs right after he signed with the Bills.
Oh no way.
So he's going to be suspended, I think, for 6 games. So, we knew we were trying to move on from him, but I think it's kind of funny that we dodged an even further bullet with that.
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea that was going on, but yeah, I would say like that's something that he's someone that I'm not necessarily upset with. I think that definitely wasn't bad, but I don't know. It's not someone like a Landon Roberts where you hear that you're like, oh, he's gonna be missed.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and then we lost a couple of offensive linemen. James Daniels, who pretty much didn't play the entire season, he gets $8 million a year with Miami. I think that's a good deal for him. Would I have paid it as the Steelers? Probably not, but you could see at least from 2023 how he did have some worth. Kind of as, maybe a little bit more of a seasoned veteran on the offensive line. And then Dan Moore, he goes to Nashville for a copious amount of money. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I mean, no shot I was paying Dan Moore the amount of money that Nashville paid him.
Well, I mean, praise the Lord that Dan Moore is gone. First and foremost, I did not like him. Well, sorry, I am sure that he's a great guy. As a person, I'm sure he's great. I have no problems with him. I love him. But as a player, oh my goodness, he's hard to watch. With penalties, just not blocking well. So I think that hey, if they want to pay all that money, go for it. I don't know if it's going to work out, but who knows? Could be a classic thing where he ends up being a lot better. I am a little upset about James Daniels, even though he missed all of last year. I think that the year before that he was solid, and I think that throughout his entire career he's been a solid lineman. So I would have loved to have kept that because our O line still isn't the best. So I was a little sad to hear that.
All right. And then we've got one piece on defense, Dante Jackson, he also goes to the Chargers. I guess, like, I'm not upset about that. The only problem is, we're gonna have to start filling these cornerbacks who it seems like it's just kind of a 1-year cycle with these guys. I mean, he had what, 5 interceptions this last year, but as far as his actual coverage went, it was not spectacular.
Right, and that was like it was the statistics kinda lied a little bit of like, "Oh, he's got all these, interceptions, but his coverage wasn't that great," and I agree, obviously, we'll talk about this a little bit more with who we added, but I feel like it's been and I mean, honestly, it's been like this with the quarterback ever since Ben, but it's like every year, it's like something different, and it's like, why are we, um it's like we're almost scared to draft. I don't understand. Like, we're just getting these guys for a year or two, and then they go out, and it's like, what's the end goal? What's the end goal with getting these guys? Only to let them go after a couple years, and we weren't at our best. Like, I just am confused with their decision making in some areas.
Yeah, completely. And then 2 wide receivers. Mike Williams goes back to the Chargers, 1 year, $3 million deal, and then Van Jefferson goes to the Titans, and you know, he is what he is. So that's the thing. It's like we've got two wide receivers that, you know, aren't they're not gonna, like, turn the needle necessarily, but I wouldn't have minded having Mike Williams back, right? You know?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think that, Van Jefferson, that's fine. But Mike Williams, I mean, I think he's still got some time left in him, and he had so much potential with us, just off of his statistics when he was actually throwing the ball. So I would have loved to have had that. I think that maybe they weren't feeling like they needed to after some of their moves in the free agency, but I don't I feel like we're almost scared of depth. I don't understand. Like, I feel like in every position, it's like, oh, we've got two or three guys. Like, I don't understand why we're not like, let's get some solid depth. I feel like I don't understand why we're not building a roster.
But it's also like they have depth, but it's like practice squad caliber guys.
Yes.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
It's like guys who, like, if you weren't on our team, you wouldn't be in the league. And it's like it's been like that for a long time. I mean, Duck Hodges, I'll just throw that name out there. Like, the Steelers have had that for a long time. And so you're absolutely right that, like, we maybe do have depth, but it's like guys that are like, who are they? Like, I don't know. Again, I don't like where is the identity? What is our goal here?
Yeah, absolutely. And then the big one, the last loss of the notable names that we lost in free agency. Mr. Justin Fields was only around for just a cup of coffee in Pittsburgh, and I did not get to see him with my own two eyes in a Steelers uniform. And it makes me really sad because the game that I went to, he was benched in a way for Russell Wilson. And who knows, maybe Russell Wilson might not even be back because he still hasn't signed anywhere yet. And we'll get to the quarterback situation in just a minute. But Justin Fields goes to the Jets, and it seems like that the Steelers made a competitive offer for him, and Fields just chose the Jets. So, what does that tell you about the state of where we are right now?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty apparent that uh whatever we've got going on, people don't want. I think that, like, we've seen that with Najee's statement. We'll get to the quarterbacks, but we've kind of seen it with how things have been going with Aaron Rodgers. We're seeing it in Justin Fields leaving like this. And a lot of guys leaving. I think that it's just people are able to, like, give a better pitch, and people are able to be like, hey, like, you will actually win. Like, we might actually win, and you might actually start the whole time. And I agree, it is really sad. I'm an Ohio State fan, so, like, I've watched him since college, and I would have loved to have seen him have more time than just 5 games. Like, 5 games, that's all he got, and we're moving on. Well, he's moving on, which, I mean, I understand. I get why these guys are leaving. If specifically offensive, if you're gonna run the, like, minimized version of your actual offense, not letting people actually do what they're good at, uh, and just, calling the simplest plays in the book, why wouldn't you want to go somewhere else? Specifically, the Jets, who's got a new head coach. They have a good defense. They've got Garrett Wilson, Brees Hall, Braylon Allen. Um, I mean, yeah, I feel like I understand. I understand why people are leaving.
Yeah, I do too. It's not the Steelers just aren't a tantalizing team to play for anymore. And I thought like maybe last season or at least last offseason, we were starting to get a crop of guys that were like, yeah, I want to play for the Steelers. Like
Right.
Deshaun Elliott, specifically one of those guys that, I was thinking, hey, maybe the Steeler way, you know, the enticing part of the Steelers in free agency is kind of returned. But now this offseason, we're kind of seeing the exact opposite. Nobody is really compelled to stay with the Steelers if they were already there. And, what we're going to get into here with the actual ones that we did bring in free agency, I mean, I can count maybe 2 names on this list, maybe 3, I guess, that are, guys that are coming to play for the Steelers. And one guy, he didn't really even have much of a choice because he was traded for. And I guess this is a great time to start to talk about the big deal that was made here in this free agent time. Not a free agent move, but a massive trade that we made. The Steelers get DK Metcalf for a second, sixth, and a seventh round pick swap, and then immediately signed him to a 4-year, $132 million contract extension. That is crazy because we talked all season last year and a little bit of this offseason, like, who the heck are we going to throw the ball to outside of George Pickens? And we talked about it in our wide receiver episode, how the draft seems to be one of the big places that we're going to have to address that. But now, I mean, we didn't even talk about DK Metcalf. Frankly, I don't think either of us really knew that he was an option. And here he is now, and he's on our team, and you get him paired with George Pickens, and suddenly that wide receiver room looks a whole lot better than it did even just last year.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I remember when we got the notification. I mean, I'll admit it. I was pretty like going a little crazy, a little excited. Like, what the heck is going on? And then we signed him to a 4-year deal. I'm like, what are we doing? This is crazy. Um, but yeah, I mean, again, I'm glad that we have another target. I'm glad that we have like a weapon. It'll be interesting to see how Pickens and Metcalf kind of go with each other, but I don't know. Again, I don't know. Metcalf hasn't really had a good output the past this year, especially, but the year before that. I do think he's a great athlete. I do think he can be amazing. So again, I just hope we use him in a way that like could show off his gifts, and it'd be interesting to see. Not that I want this. If we were to sign Russell Wilson back, like Metcalf's best years was when Russell Wilson was at quarterback with the Seahawks. So that could be pretty interesting to see a little like, reuniting there. But overall, I like this trade. I think that he could be a really good weapon. And I like that we did something and we made a move and we got a receiver.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you said about his production, I think is very worth noting because his touchdowns per season is well down in the last 3 years compared to the first 3 years of his career. He's averaging over 1,000 yards a season in the last 3 years, but again, his touchdowns are down. He's averaging around 6 touchdowns a year. He's had over 900 yards in all 6 seasons of his career, so fairly consistent. You know kind of what you're gonna get as a baseline for him. He's had 3,000-yard seasons, one up over 1,100, and he's had 66 receptions in each of the last 2 seasons. Now, here's what I wanted to ask, because you kinda have a little bit more of a football brain in terms of statistics than I do. What's your baseline for wide receiver production that you would say, okay, like I'm happy with this season, like this production, especially given that Metcalf is probably projected as like a wide receiver one. What is the standard statistical production for a wide receiver one in your mind?
So in my mind, it's interesting because I was thinking about that as you were speaking, because kind of thinking about what Troy Aikman was talking about when Najee got 1,000 yards. It's like it's almost like what our standard was has got to go up because it's 17 games now, and it's like it's not as hard as it used to be to get to 1,000 yards. So for a like, I would say for a good solid season for a wide receiver, I tend to look for the 1,000 yards. For me, in my mind, that's still kind of a benchmark. Is like, did you get to 1,000 yards? I think maybe that needs to go up a little bit now. There's 17 games. As far as catches go, I think that that's the statistic I'm least versed in. But I think that yeah, like the high 60s to 80s. I feel like that's a average good number to hit as a receiver, or of course higher. And then touchdowns. Um, Man, I feel like you gotta have more than 8. You gotta have 8 or more. In my mind, like, at least half the games that you're in, you should be catching touchdowns. And honestly, that's like I feel like almost a nice statistic I'm throwing out there. Like it should maybe even 10 should be the number. If you're a number one guy. and you're having a good season for wide receiver. I'd say that those are kind of like my benchmark numbers that I see.
Okay. So I just looked it up. So Jamar Chase, obviously, he's like, one of the greatest wide receivers ever already
Yeah.
in just his fourth season. He had 1,700 receiving yards this year. He had double the amount of receptions that Metcalf has had in the last two seasons. He had 127 and he had 17 touchdowns. So again, obviously, that's Jamar Chase. So,
Right.
to hold anybody to that standard is pretty ridiculous. And I think him and T. Higgins both just signed contract extensions. So, the Bengals they're committing a lot of money to three guys, which, hey, more power to them. I'll love it when they continue to give up 50 points a game. But anyway, I feel like, I mean, here's the thing. So when the trade first happened, I was like, I was a little underwhelmed, honestly, and it's kind of because I'm almost like I'm trending down with the DK Metcalf stock, and I get it. It's DK Metcalf. The name itself warrants a lot of excitement, but again, how is he going to be utilized? Like you said, and is he trending down? I mean, he is. He's 27 years old, so he's in his prime right now. Like he's still in his prime, but is he trending down? The shelf life of wide receivers, it's a little bit more than some other positions in football. But at the same time, when do those numbers start to trend down? And are we already starting to see that with DK Metcalf, or is that just a product of him having Geno Smith as opposed to Russell Wilson in the last couple of seasons?
Right, and I think that that's definitely something to think about because I do agree. Like, even though I was like, honestly, part of the excitement was just like, oh my gosh, like we did something, like that's crazy. But yeah, I think his stock, I would agree that it's going down in my opinion. Like he definitely, I think, needs to prove himself this year and to have a good year because, I, yeah, I don't know what our thought process was with the 4 year contract because of the stock going down. It's like, are we? So we're buying a 900 yard, 6 touchdown guy for 4 years. Like again, and that's like probably that's a little below average, below mediocre. Is like, is that what we're going for? Like why are we sticking with these mediocre guys? Now I think he could break out and he could have a great year. But I agree. I think that there is some definitely a question mark here, and it's like, well, we'll have to wait and see what happens on the field.
So the interesting thing about this too is that we're only bound to him for $11 million this year before that ramps up to like over 30 million a year. So this year, like the cap is much more friendly with his contract than it will be for the next, 4 years or whatever. So, and the Steelers also have a fair amount of cap space at their disposal. I think they have another $40 million in cap space still available for this offseason, which is a good number. And I think that there's a lot of ways that they can structure that. But the big problem is we don't have a quarterback yet. And no matter how good our wide receiver room is, if we don't have a quarterback, like none of that really matters. Now, I guess you could say that, hey, we signed Mason Rudolph to a 2 year, $8 million contract. So are we going to ride with Mason Rudolph, who, brought us to this little Cinderella run 2 years ago and then, just kind of petered off in the playoffs? Or are we actually going to sign a real quarterback? Or I guess is this $4 million that we're paying Rudolph this year? Is this what we're expecting to be throwing to DK Metcalf and George Pickens?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think that I'm right along there with you of like, what are we doing? Russell Wilson has been radio silent. Like, I feel like I haven't heard anything about him. The Aaron Rodgers stuff, in my opinion, has just gotten like almost like sour. Like that, I just saw today that he came into the Steelers facilities and left, not making a contract and having no agreement. So I don't understand what's going on there. And then I saw something Cam Hayward was on ESPN, and he kind of was quoted as saying you either want to be a Steeler or you don't. And so it sounds like Aaron Rodgers might not want to be a Steeler. And so then after that, it's like, okay, well, if Russell Wilson's silent, I don't really see us signing him back unless it's super cheap. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be a Steeler, I mean, the only place else to look is the draft, right?
I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't know if there's really any other options at this point, which is the whole reason why I was just so upset that we just let Justin Fields walk, and it was for $20 million. And that's exactly, I think it was the exact deal that I said. It's like, throw him $20 million for 2 years and just, let him be the quarterback. If he succeeds, that's great. And then he finally gets his chance to have an NFL moment. And if he doesn't, then great. We finally have a direction. But now we're in this limbo. We don't know who our quarterback is. We just traded for a big name wide receiver and we signed him to a bunch of money for the next 4 years. That cap is going to start to, be problematic here in a couple of years. Not this year, but in a couple of years it will be. And then you also have to think, hey, TJ Watt is up for a contract extension at some point too. Is he going to want a boatload of money, or is he going to want to test some free agency and try to get some more? Like, the stuff is not trending in the right direction based on what we're trying to do. And like you keep saying, it's like, I don't even know what we're trying to do. Do we have any like direction to what we're doing? I don't know, because I can't see it. That's the whole point.
Right. And I think that you're absolutely right. And it's another reason, kind of thinking about it. It's like, I don't like that we already signed him to a 4-year deal, because everyone knows, like it's a fantasy football like hack. You draft people that are that they're in a contract year, that they're playing for money. And it's like, that's when players are at their best. And it's like DK Metcalf doesn't need to do that because he just signed a contract. So, I mean, that takes some of the pressure off. But yeah, again, I don't know what our direction is. With what has been happening, it's making me think our direction might be like a draft. Like, it could be like a repeat of almost last year, or what we wanted to do last year and 2 years ago, of like, oh, let's draft the guy, Mason Rudolph will start the first few games, and then we'll realize that was a mistake, and then we'll put in the rookie. Like, I just, and like that would have happened probably with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields had not Russell Wilson been hurt at the beginning of the year. So, I mean, what, like, again, insanity. Like, it's doing the same thing over and over again. And that's what we're doing. We're like kind of half going for free agency. We're kind of like half, like, I don't understand. Yeah. I mean, we just don't have a direction. And it's hard to make assumptions and guess when it seems like the guys who are making the decisions don't even know what they're doing.
Right. 100%. Otherwise, on the offensive side, you mentioned just a moment ago, Kenneth Gainwell, who we brought in for probably is going to be our backup running back, which I don't mind that at all. I think he thrives kind of in that backup running back role. He has with the Eagles for a long time. I don't mind that, especially when we do know now that Jalen Warren is probably going to be our number one guy with Najee Harris walking. So I like that. I like that deal. It's interesting to me. It kind of feels like Jalen Warren to Najee Harris, but just with Jalen Warren as the guy right now. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does. And I loved this. When I heard it, I was like, oh, this is great. I think that he'll be very supplemental to Jalen Warren. I love Jalen Warren being at the front of our team. And I think that, I think that one of the things that was like, you know, a hindrance on Najee was just that he wasn't that fast and he couldn't really like move around. I think that both these guys, I mean, we know Jalen does, and I think Kenneth Gainwell does too. They both got some speed and some movement. And I think that if they stay healthy, I think our running back room could be a lot more productive.
I think so too. And then, ironically enough, we actually did bring back a couple of wide receivers. Ben Skoranek for a 2-year contract, which I like that. I thought Ben Skoranek was a nice little supplement, kind of down there on the wide receiver depth chart. And then we brought back Scotty Miller after we put him on waivers at the end of the season. That one confuses me. I like Skoranek. I like his blocking ability, and I like his, kind of depth catching ability. But Scotty Miller, that one just confused me.
Yeah. Skoranek is scrappy. I like it. I want to see more of him, see what we can do. Yeah, Scotty Miller makes no sense. I thought we were done with him. I thought we were moving on. I thought that I mean, is Roman Wilson alive? Like, why are we getting Scotty Miller if Roman Wilson is the same archetype as him? So that just throws me for a loop. I don't like, where's Roman Wilson? Can we hear like an update on him?
Well, I think so. What I've heard is that Roman Wilson, the reason he didn't see the field pretty much at all this season is that he just never adapted to the playbook, which talk to me about this. And maybe you didn't catch this originally, but explain to me how you can't understand a playbook that consists of run, 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 deep ball, run, run, run. How does that make any sense?
Yeah, it almost makes me not buy it. Of like, how could anyone not? Like, it's the easiest playbook in the league offensively. So if that's true, I mean we're in trouble. But it makes me kind of doubt that because he's coming from, well, actually, I guess no, yeah, he's coming from the mind of Jim Harbaugh, who was an offensive guy. So it's like I don't think Jim Harbaugh's offense was the easiest thing in the world to learn. So it could. I don't understand that. That doesn't make there's it should not end up there. I don't know how that happened.
It's just that Michigan education, right?
Oh yeah, there you go. There you go.
Well, there's that. And then very randomly, our very first signing in this offseason was Donald Parham, a tight end who spent the entirety of last season on the Broncos practice squad. He's 28 years old. He's 6'8", 240. So he's literally just like, you know, Mount Washington 2.0. He did have 4 touchdowns in 2023 with the Chargers. But again, at the same time, it's like, why? We have 1,000 tight ends. Like, do we need another one who's the same as one of the ones we already use?
Yeah, no, I think that I agree with you. I mean, that's just dumb. It's like why it doesn't make sense. I think that it might be safe to say he's out of his prime because he was on the practice squad a whole year. And I don't even know. There's no fan, the tight end for the. Well, no, who even is the Broncos tight end? Like, who beat this guy out, right? A guy we don't know. So, like, yeah, I don't. I mean, whatever. It wasn't that expensive, but it's just like, why? Why did we do that?
Yeah, it's just another one of those, okay, we did that for no apparent reason. All right, let's move to the defense. And there's one big name, and that's about it. So Darius Slay, we signed to a 1-year contract, a longtime veteran, a Super Bowl champion, and he's got 28 career interceptions in 12 seasons, but he had 0 in 2024. And his PFF rating was 67.6. So he's around like, just barely in the top half of cornerbacks in the league. However, comparative to our actual cornerbacks that we have, he's like substantially and identifiably better than Joey Porter Jr. based on his PFF rating. So he was an all-pro all the way back in 2017 with Detroit. But, it's a big name, it's a recognizable name. Well, I guess we should say that. But what are your thoughts on Darius Slay? Because we've had problems with cornerback like we've talked about for a year, but, is he this answer to our, supposed problems?
I would hope that he would be. I think that like 2022 Darius Slay, I would have been all in on. I think this is gonna be a Patrick Peterson 2.0 of like this dude's out of his prime. He just won his Super Bowl. And, I think that it's kind of going to be along the lines of like, look at who was around him. Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Bradbury. They had another safety that was really good, but they had an amazing secondary. I think that it's going to be a case with the same Patrick Peterson where it's like you don't rise to what you were, you fall to where you're going. And I mean, he's in like this secondary. This secondary is confusing. Our corners are definitely rough. Minka, I don't know what his status is. Love Deshaun Elliott, but yeah. So I don't know if he like again. I don't know. We can't expect an old guy like this to come in and be the one that like wakes everybody up. He's the guy that's like you're the last piece. Like you're the Richard Sherman to our 2019 49ers. Richard Sherman wasn't the cornerback number 1 leading the front with all those guys. He was like, supplementary. Let me get you in there, help us out here. And so yeah, I don't think this is gonna work out, unfortunately.
I don't mind it. I mean, I think it's fine, just as in a base level. But like you said, it's not like he shouldn't be the guy. This shouldn't be like the big name that we have in our secondary this coming season. Although I will say, kind of like in a contrast to what you were saying with the people that were around him in Philly, I mean, he was kind of getting babied all season long. He was getting thrown his way. And maybe that's why his numbers maybe weren't as great as, you know, all pro Darius Slay. But at the same time, you know, how much can we really expect out of him? I forget, I didn't write his age down, but I mean, he's up there. He's an older guy. And
Yeah.
I think the comparison you made with Patrick Peterson is incredible. I think that might be right on. And, if that's the case, then we're in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, and I hope, and I don't think it'll be as bad as Patrick Peterson was. And like I will say I do have some hope, like you were saying, like I think that he still could be good, but I just have a lot of fear that it's gonna turn out like it has.
Yeah, I think so too. We have two, well, I guess three other secondary pieces that we brought in. Brandon Eccles from the Jets. He's also a cornerback. We signed him. I can't remember if it's a 1 year. I think it's a 1 year deal. Ironically enough, he has two pick sixes in his career. Otherwise, I mean, he's not great. It's kind of the Dante Jackson syndrome where, the numbers, they don't really tell the whole story. We also brought back James Pierre, which is just, I don't know. I don't know why we keep just bringing him back. I feel like he's just this cockroach that we just can't get rid of, and he's just always there for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've grown accustomed to him being with us in the season and like watching him, and I don't dislike him. I think that just being frank, he's just not like a top three quarterback, like for any team. Like he can't be a one, a two, or a three. He could only be a four, and like still he struggles with that at times. So yeah, that one's I don't know. I mean, we must just really like the guy.
I guess, and maybe we can get him to, drop a pass on a 4th and 15 on special teams again this season.
No, that don't bring that memory.
Hey, I saw it with my own two eyes. I'll never forget it.
Oh man.
All right, and then in the other secondary piece, Juan Thornhill, who was with the Browns this last year, he spent his first couple of seasons in the league with the Chiefs and was pretty good. And then he goes to the Browns for 2 years and sucks. So, makes a lot of sense. Maybe he just needs to get out of Cleveland like literally anybody does, but it's a safety. He's not gonna I mean, he's gonna be behind Minka and Deshaun Elliott, so it's more just a depth piece, which is fine. Again, we talk about depth, it's nice to have depth, and I don't mind it again, but again, we're almost through our defense that, we talked about several times. It needs patching up. And I mean, we've talked about one name that's kind of like iffy in a way. I mean, I'm not super encouraged based on what we have. And I got two more names that we'll have in a second. But again, like it just doesn't seem like what we did in free agency is sufficient. Like what we did is fine, I guess, by industry standard, but again, it's like the sin of omission. Not doing something is worse than doing something bad in a way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I agree, and yeah, none of those moves, like, I mean, most of those guys, well, the secondary guys, I don't even know if I knew any of their names. Like, I was like, you said Brandon Eccles, and I was like, I don't know who that is. You said Thornhill, I'm like, he kind of sounds familiar, maybe, but I, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's drawing us to these people. It's just, man, just be in the mind of our ownership because they do not think like me. I'll just say that.
Well, I mean, you and I think fairly similarly, and I think we're kind of agreeing on what we've already been doing. But it's funny, like even just watching you in that moment just a few seconds ago, it's like you're just trying to process things. Like I can see the wheels turning in your head, and they're just not turning at all. Like there's no connection with what we're doing.
Right. And when it's hard, it's like I'm trying to be like, what is like the why? Like what are they doing here? And it's just I'm thinking about it and I'm just like, I don't know. I can't figure out what the plan is.
Yeah, I don't think anybody knows what the plan is. So,
It's
and then we got two linebackers. one of which was a former Raven, Malik Harrison. We signed him to a 2-year deal for whatever reason. He was kind of just this backup piece with the Ravens, which I guess it's fine. He's familiar with Patrick Queen, at least in a way, but again, he's not going to turn the needle. I didn't know who he was. And, I watch the Ravens twice a year, sometimes more than that. I didn't know who this guy was until we signed him. And then the other thing, I guess it's not a signing, but we got a contract restructure for Cole Holcomb, who missed all of last season, which we were really high on him before he got hurt back in 2023. And I like that a lot. And maybe that's the reason that we let Elandon Roberts walk. But at the same time, why are we letting a guy who, again, is a run stopper, who has his niche with our defense, and we're going to be relying on a guy who's coming off a pretty horrific injury that missed all of last season? How much can we really expect out of Cole Holcomb, which he had a good showing in the time that he was healthy in 2023, but how much can we expect out of him this season?
Right. I think that, I loved Cole Holcomb when he was playing. I was hoping every like kind of week after mid-season of last year, I was like, oh, maybe he somehow can make a quick recovery or something. But yeah, I mean, I like that we have him. I would love to see, hopefully he can recover from this injury and get back to the level that he was playing at, because he was playing at a good level. And then Malik Harrison, I know because he was a linebacker at Ohio State. Now, he hasn't really done anything in the NFL, but I think that might have been their way of trying to refill the run stopper role. I don't know if he'll be as efficient as Elandon Roberts, though.
Okay. Well, that's good. At least that you're aware of him. I was pretty much, I had no clue, but I guess you're at least somewhat familiar with him.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was like a weird little stretch where J.K. Dobbins, Malik Harrison, and maybe one other guy from Ohio State went to the Ravens. And I was like, well, you gotta be kidding me. Like, what the heck is going on?
Well, that's unfortunate for you, but you've got your national championship to
That's true. Yeah.
can I bring up, just to put it over the airwaves, can I bring up the thing that you told me? I don't know if you remember telling me this, but you said, and maybe I'm throwing you under the bus for this, but you said that I don't care if we win the national championship this year. The fact that we lost to Michigan makes this season a waste. Can I just bring that up, after the fact? We've had some time to think about this for a second. Can I run that back for just a moment?
Did I say that?
You said that, and I can verify that other people have heard the same thing from you as well.
I think that okay. I think that was probably directly after the loss to Michigan, because after that loss, I also was like, we're not going to do anything in the playoffs. And so yeah, that was probably putting my foot in the mouth there, because I definitely quickly changed my tune. I was one of the Ohio State fans that was like, if he doesn't win a national championship, we're going on a deep run here. We should fire Ryan Day. But I will stand by that. But I don't stand by that statement. I definitely take that back. I'm definitely content and satisfied with the national championship and a great year. It's actually funny. My roommate is a Michigan fan, and he just said every time if I mention Ohio State, he's like, "Oh, you're welcome." Like, we're glad we're able to hoist that with you. And I'm like, get out of here. Like, we won this thing. You went 8-5. I don't even want to hear, like, whatever. Okay, you beat us, but we won the dang title. So yeah, I definitely take that statement back.
Okay. I was just making sure, because in the moment I heard it and I kind of just nodded my head and was like, oh, okay. But in my mind, I'm like, whoa, that's a pretty bold statement there.
Yeah, okay, but it does go to show how this rivalry is pretty intense, because it does get like that, and I still, obviously have strong feelings towards Michigan, in that way, and you know, for 4 years of losing to Michigan, we hadn't done really anything in the playoffs during those 4 years, so I was kind of just expecting the same, expecting that was capping off our season like it had the past 3 years. So, but yeah, I definitely am happy we won the national championship, and it was not a waste.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. We all know that, the Steelers can't lose to the Browns and win the Super Bowl in the same year, so, you know, excuse me. Ugh. I guess it seems like Ohio State losing to Michigan does not necessarily mean wasted season at this point.
Yes, I think that they finally proved that stat wrong.
Okay, good deal. Well, I just wanted to clear that up as we finished up here with our free agency episode. And honestly, this is probably not the last you're going to hear from us in regards to free agency because, hey, we still don't have a quarterback. Again, unless Mason Rudolph is the guy and they're planning that all along, then you're not going to hear from us really until we do some pre draft stuff. And,
Yeah.
maybe we'll talk about some quarterbacks in that episode, but I don't know. I'm not hoping for Aaron Rodgers. I'm still not going to change my stance on whether the fact I want him or not, but I think right now there's really nothing I can say that I want because all of the options are just sucky beyond belief.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe I'm saying. Of course, I don't want Aaron Rodgers, but I can't believe I'm saying this based off of the podcast we had a little while ago talking about quarterbacks. But I would be much more satisfied with a draft pick than Aaron Rodgers. Like, and I know that Jackson Dart and Jalen Milroe are the two. I feel like they kind of have floated our way the most, looking at mock drafts and other things like that. I know that Mike Tomlin likes Jalen Milroe, and as low as I was on those guys, I would just rather have them than Aaron Rodgers.
Which stinks because you're probably going to have to spend a high draft pick. And, newsflash, we don't have a second round pick right now because we traded it for DK Metcalf. So if that's the direction that they were wanting to go, hey, we got our second round wide receiver in quotation marks, but now we don't have a second round pick to spend on a quarterback that probably shouldn't be taken in the first round.
Right. This draft, yeah, I think that it's a little bit more handicapped than we thought it was going to be. So it'll be interesting to see their adjustments they make to it. Because I don't know what they're going to do in this draft.
I have no idea, but we will talk about that eventually. Keep or stay tuned for that episode. We'll have that out. Again, I keep forgetting when the draft is. Is it mid-April or late April?
I want to say mid-April because we're always still here on campus when it happens. So, and well, I don't know. When you mentioned it at the beginning, I was like, huh, when is that? Because I do not remember, but I feel like it's mid to late. It's for some reason I want to say it's in the 20s.
Okay.
April.
Okay, that checks out. So, in about a month from now, you can expect to have heard from us regarding the draft, and then we will do a post-draft analysis. But hey, we'll take some baby steps and get there sequentially as far as all this stuff goes. Because after this free agency, we still don't have a complete team, and I don't believe that this team can be super competitive this year based on what we've already done. So they're going to have to address some other stuff. And as some news comes out, we will undoubtedly be covering that. We kind of had a little bit of a hiatus here in the last month or so. I've kind of been a little bit busy. We wanted to have this done last week, and then it was spring break for David. So we kind of just have been putting this off. But again, I think it was a decent idea just to, allow everything to marinate for a little bit and get our kind of unbiased thoughts on things. We both liked the DK Metcalf trade, maybe in the very instant that it happened, but then maybe after a few days, we kind of started to come back down to earth on the reality of things. So that's kind of the state of where we're at. And again, we will address the quarterback situation as well as some draft prospects in due time. And as always, Boardman Black and Gold is sponsored by Zeka Enterprises, crafting furniture solutions in northwestern Pennsylvania. You can call 910-777-3871 to turn your furniture problems into furniture solutions. Any final thoughts, David?
I think I'm interested but scared to see how this plan that we have kind of unfolds in this next month.
You put plan in quotation marks. I don't know if plan is a great word for it. We might need to find a less strong synonym for that because I don't think that we really have much of a plan. And even from where I'm at right now, I don't even know what I would plan for the team from where we're currently sitting at this moment,
No, I mean, I agree. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's more of like a wandering of like, oh, like we're just taking things as they come, I guess. I don't know. And I agree. Where do we go from here? I don't know.
Yeah, we're both confused. We still don't know. And we said it a couple of months ago after the loss. It's like, we're a directionless organization. We don't know what we're doing. And it seems like that they are playing that right into our hands as we speak. So we'll see what happens. But regardless, Bournemouth Black and Gold will be back for another episode to break down the draft prospects as well as maybe some quarterback news here in the near future. As for us, Zane and David, thanks for listening to Boardman Black and Gold. We will see you next time.